Swarved is the heart of Vihangam Yoga. Chanting its dohe brings harmony and peace to our soul and mind. It keeps us on the path of righteousness. Today, we have Yogesh Kshirshagarji, who has strong bonding with Vihangam Yoga. He is on the verge of achieving the heights of spirituality. He is one of the loved Sishya of Lord Sadgurudev and has been blessed by Sadgurudev on many times. He has unwound and correlated Swarved verses to many ancient scriptures like Ved, Gita, Purans. Let's hear from Yogesh ji and learn how we can be benefited from Swarved's wisdom. Over to you, Yogesh ji.
Jai Sadgurudev, everyone. I am fortunate to be part of this session. As Raviji mentioned, Swarved is not just a spiritual book, but it is the encyclopedia of spirituality. It is the constitution of Vihangam Yoga. Swarved is a Aptvani. The Supreme Soul's knowledge has flown through Sadgurudev's soul and appear in the form of these couplets. And that's why every single couplet is a divine in itself. And just by chanting these couplets every day, especially before meditation, help a sadhak, the meditation practitioner, to start progressing forward in his or her spiritual journey. As always, this session is an interactive session, and we want everyone to be part of this session. Therefore, I would request somebody to come forward and read today's this couplet that is on the screen, and also read the description, and then we will start discussing in depth based on our understanding. So I would request somebody to come forward.
Jai Sadgurudev. I will read the Doha. तार निरंतर ऊर्ध्व में चेतन लो योग प्रवाह सो योगी वेधन्य है जीवन मृतक पद भाष्य सोमरस प्रवाही जीवन मुक्त विहंगम योगी धन्य है जिनका ऊर्ध्व प्रवाह सदैव एक रूप से प्रवाहित रहता है. जय सद्गुरु.
Thank you very much, Shri Rangji. So this couplet talks about a extraordinary state of an yogi. And to explain that, Swamiji has used one specific word, that is Jivan Mrutak. So we will begin our discussion from this particular word, and then we will understand the rest of the lines. So what is Jivan Mrutak? This is a combination of two words, Jivan means being alive, and mritak means dead. So it is certainly such an extraordinary state of an yogi, where on one hand he is alive, and the other hand he is dead. It is hard to imagine this state for any common man. So let's dive deeper into this word and try to understand what do Swamiji want to mention. So the synonym for a Jivan Mritak is a Jivan Mukt, means a liberated soul. So when the liberation happens, very often a common man has a understanding or a misunderstanding that when a person dies, even though who is at the high stage of spirituality, after the death, the salvation happens or the liberation of the soul happens. I called it as a misunderstanding because the liberation of soul does not occur after soul leave the human body. On the contrary, first the soul reach to the liberation state. First the soul achieve the nirvana state. First the soul achieve the salvation. While that yogi is still in his physical body, that is called a Jivan Mukti. What happens to such yogi after he discard his physical body or mortal body is that the soul of such a liberated yogi reach to the 3/4 conscious zone, Chetan Mandal, what we call Amar Dham, Viraj Dham, or Teen Pad Amrit. So the basically Jivan Mukti or Jivan Mrutak is the stage of an yogi where the yogi is very much alive and perform his daily chores. However, while he is doing that, his consciousness is not in the world. From the world's point of view, he is dead because just like a common man whose consciousness is always flow in a downward direction, in the outward direction, and it is connected to the physical world through our mind and our sensory organs. And therefore, for the common man, everything that the person perform, every action the person perform, he required to have his or her consciousness attached to that particular sensory organ at that particular moment to experience the physical existence of that object. Just like when in our current state, when we are sitting here and attending satsang, our consciousness is connected to our sensory organ and we are in the present moment trying to understand this couplet. However, in case of yogi, this is not how he performed the operations or daily actions. For yogi who has achieved that highest state of being one with that supreme soul, that Jivan Mrutak stage, his consciousness is separated from the worldly objects. His consciousness is separated from his mind. His consciousness is separated from the sensory organs. His consciousness is separated from pranas. And with the trick of Lord Sadgurudev, he learned the technique of keeping his consciousness separated from mind and prana and stay connected with that consciousness of the Supreme Soul. So we may have a question, because so far what we understand the science of consciousness, that wherever your consciousness is, that's when you experience the worldly objects. But we are saying here that the consciousness is separated from world, the consciousness is separated from mind and prana, and it is connected, or it become one with a Supreme Soul. Then how do this yogi perform his daily chores? Or does he just sit around and do nothing? What is the difference between a common man and the liberated soul, or a Jivan Mukti yogi? The difference is very clear, that the yogi, because his consciousness is pulled inward and then it flow upward and then it become the one with Supreme Soul, at this stage he or she do not have any desire for any worldly happiness. He also do not have any worldly duties or responsibilities, because the highest responsibility or highest goal of the human life, and that is achieving the Supreme Soul, that yogi has already achieved that state. So for him or her, there is no duty, worldly duties are left behind to perform. But that does not mean that such yogi just sit around and do nothing. What Swamiji described as a akarmanya sthiti means not taking any action, not doing any daily activities. Does that happen with the yogi, such yogi? No, actually not. So there are there are two types of samadhi, or the supreme conscious state. One samadhi is called akhanda samadhi, and one samadhi is called sahaja samadhi. So when yogi reach to that supreme conscious state, either he is in akhanda samadhi or he is in sahaja samadhi. So what is akhanda samadhi? Akhanda samadhi is the one where that yogi sit at one place and continuously, his consciousness is connected to Supreme Soul. He experienced the Supreme Soul inside out everywhere, and he sit at one place and continuously stay connected with the Supreme Soul. That is called akhanda samadhi, means unbreakable supreme conscious state, where he do not perform any operation, any activity. He just do not break his sitting posture. While the other supreme conscious state is what is called sahaja samadhi, means while that yogi is continuously having his consciousness connected with the Supreme Soul, yet he or she perform all their daily rituals or daily chores, just like any common man. So they do not have to do anything different to perform their daily activities. How this is possible? This is possible because of the trick or the technique, a special secretive technique that has been given to or enabled in such yogi by Satgurudev. And if we have to explain, or if we have to understand this state at our level, by using some examples from the Prakriti, which are not exactly the same, but because what happens in the conscious zone is very different than what happens in the nature. Yet we can try to understand in a better way. For example, if you see the female turtle, the mother turtle, she hatch her eggs, which are hidden in the sand on the beach of the ocean. Yet that mother turtle is inside the water, and by staying inside the water, she hatched those eggs. And when those baby turtles come out of those eggs, they know where to go. They just crawl back to the ocean and reach to their mother. So here the consciousness of that turtle, mother turtle, staying away from the egg, yet she is continuously, hatching those eggs. Similarly, if you might have seen the people who are normally from the Indian background, they might have seen these visuals many times in their life. Those women or ladies who carry multiple ways on their head filled with water. Even though they have 2-3 ways on their head, they are and carrying the water from the river or the water source back to home. While going back home, they just talk. They stop by to talk to their friends, or while walking back home, they are just talking, smiling, and easily carrying their waist on their head without making them fall. So how is this possible? Because this is how they are keeping their consciousness connected with those, and yet they perform very, very easily they perform that action. So basically, when yogi reached to that state, his consciousness, though connected with the Supreme Soul, he learned the technique to perform the daily chores without bringing his consciousness down in the Prakriti and perform the activity. So because their consciousness is always flowing upward and not connected with mind or prana, they never fall back into the state of common man where they will have any worldly desires, or they get involved into the cycle of karmas, into the bondage of karmas. They perform all actions, yet they are not responsible for the fruits of those karmas. They completely stay separated from these karmas. So there is one couplet in Swarved, this which explains very beautifully about this stage. Swamiji says, "Vah to avastha dhanya hai, sab kuch kar kriya nahi, sarva bhog kar nahi kare, padma patra jal mahi." Means that stage is very admirable or very extraordinary, where the yogi perform all operations, yet he do not bear the fruits for those karmas, those actions. He consume or he experience those objects, the physical world through his sensory organs, yet he is not responsible for those bhog or those desires. So his stage is exactly the same way how the lotus leaf stay in the water, yet the water do not touch the leaf. That is the stage that a yogi achieves, staying in the world, staying around with the people who are continuously involved and rigorously follow their worldly desires. The yogi, even though he live in the company of such people, those karmas, those desires never touch or never make his consciousness impure or never force his consciousness to come down into the prakriti and perform the action. So now the question is, when does this stage come, or how an yogi achieve that kind of a stage? So that is where the first line of this doha comes in. Swamiji says, Tara nirantara urdhva chetana yoga pravaha. Means when the consciousness constantly flow into the supreme soul and or become one with the consciousness of supreme soul, which is we call the reunion with the supreme soul, which is we call the true, when the true yoga happens. That is the stage which is called Jivan Mritik stage. We all know that Vihangam Yoga meditation technique is divided into the 5 stages. And this meditation practice begins from focusing our consciousness outside the body. Why? Because our at the beginning, just like any other common man, our consciousness right now is in the involved or is connected or is busy in the uh, worldly objects. And therefore, what we do is first we start practicing to bringing that consciousness at a very close point where it is just on the edge of entering into the inner world. And that happens in the first stage where you try to control the mind. While we are controlling the mind, we are not just controlling the mind. Along with that, we all know the right now where the conscious knows where the mind goes, because mind takes the soul's consciousness and perform the worldly actions. So wherever is our mind, there is our consciousness. So by controlling mind at particular focal point, outside the body, what we are doing is we are gathering that consciousness which is right now spread in the world into one ray at one particular focal point. And then the next stage is second and third stage, which is also part of the physical world, where we take the support of our physical body, physical organs, mind and pranas. Our consciousness, then in the second stage, we pull it inside and then upward. So you will, as you progress in your meditation, you will realize that every focal point, as you progress in next stages, goes in upward direction. It never goes downward. So that shows that the flow of our consciousness, which is right now outside, is gathered and pulled inside and then upward. So once the yogi crossed the third stage, of Vihangam Yoga meditation, he or she actually crossed the physical zone or the nature, and reach into the conscious zone. And from there, at one point of time, when first the experience of Akshar Brahma, the creator of this universe, the yogi experience through his consciousness that the creator of this universe, what we call Akshar Brahma, and after that, uh, the conscious ray of the soul reach to the what we call 11th door or Ekadash Dwar, where with the blessings of Sadgurudev, the consciousness become extremely subtle, where all the ego or all the impurities that soul so far had are diminished, completely vanished, completely destroyed, and the soul reached to the pure state, and the with the blessings from Sadgurudev, that consciousness, what we so far have been describing or calling as Surati, become extremely subtle, become what we call Nirati, and it enters into that 3/4 zone of Supreme Soul, that eternal bliss. Once that stage is achieved, now this is the preliminary state of yogi before he or she become liberated, because just by experiencing Supreme Soul is not actually the completion of the yoga, or not actually becoming the liberated soul, because that is where the true bhakti, or that is where the true bhajan starts. From that moment onwards, the yogi has to make sure that his or her consciousness is continuously connected with the Supreme Soul. Not even a fraction of moment that consciousness should distract from that Supreme Soul. So Swamiji has given an example of Chandra Chakor, the chakor bird, how that bird continuously look at the moon and experience the light of that moon. Similarly, not even a one fraction of a moment that bird, get distracted. His eyesight is continuously focused on that moon. Same way, uh, the consciousness of that yogi has to be in the Supreme Soul 24/7, 365 days, not even a moment it should get distracted from that Supreme Soul, the light of Supreme Soul. When that happens, within 6 months, that yogi reach to the salvation, or that soul is liberated, that yogi reach to the Jivan Mukti Avastha or Jivan Mrutaka Avastha. Until then, even though the yogi is in 5th stage, if his consciousness is not stable, he or she is not a liberated soul. He still has to, continue practicing that. And there was one satsang, online satsang, where I remember hearing, listening from one of such Guru Bhai who has reached his 5th stage. He was initiated into 5th stage in 2007 by Vartaman Acharya, Karan Swamiji. And in 2012, after 5 years, one day he was in service with Swamiji, and there were no one else, nobody was around. It was just Swamiji and that disciple who was practicing 5th stage. And so far he was struggling to stabilize his consciousness there. And so he put forward his request at Sadgurudev's holy feet that Swamiji, I'm trying, but my consciousness is not stabilizing there. What should I do? Swamiji said, it is me who will make it stabilize, but not you. And you have time. So when time comes, I will do that. So that explains that this stage is not achieved by the yogi himself, but it is given to that yogi when Swamiji's grace happens, when Swamiji, um, blessings are given to that soul, that stability comes to the consciousness of soul. Until then, that soul has to keep practicing that. Until then, his reunion with God has not completed, is not um, is not completely achieved. And therefore Swamiji is saying, so yogi ve dhanya hai, means because this, to achieve this state is not a child's play. This is not a joke. This is not a something that any worldly achieve, like or you cannot compare this with anything that a human can achieve in the world. Hardest of the hardest problem in the world solved by somebody, yet that person cannot compare with the achievement, with this spiritual achievement where yogi become one with the supreme soul. And therefore such a stage is extremely rare. Today we often hear from people that there are so and so sant or guru or whoever who are jivan mukt, and we often so many such stories. I don't know the fact, but I certainly would like to mention that it is not an easy thing to achieve that state, and that's why Sadguru himself has called such a sant or such a yogi is worthy of Sadguru's admiration. So such an extraordinary feat it is that very rare soul get this opportunity to achieve that state. And therefore Swamiji is celebrating, calling that yogi a really a dhanya yogi or exemplary yogi in this spiritual world. I think that is all I would wanted to share on this Doha. Though we all know I am at a very basic level in meditation practice. I joined just few years back, so I have absolutely no experience of anything that I mentioned. Therefore, this is absolutely based on my physical, my intellectual understanding. So I might have made mistakes. So please, sorry about that. And if anybody has anything to correct or share their thoughts, or if anybody has a questions, we can discuss that before going to the second Doha. Jai Satgurudev. Raviji, please.
Yeah, so thank you for explaining this, Doha, Yogeshji, and now bridge is open for everyone. If anybody wants to ask related question with this couplet, bridge is open.
Jai Sadgurudev, student here. So I have a question. So we have heard that there is something called as Guha Anushthan. So just wanted to understand, Yogeshji, you mentioned that the to stabilize our consciousness, we have to initially practice. You have to take effort. So is this Guha Anushtan the final step where the sadhak basically makes every effort, leaving all the distractions aside, to unite with Supreme Soul.
Jai Sadgurudev. A very a deep question, very in-depth spiritual question. Unfortunately, I do not have a real insight about it. Yes, I also have heard that Swamiji command some of these yogis to perform Guha Anushthan or 6 months meditation constantly in Shunya Shikhar ashram, or maybe other. I am not aware completely. I'm not confident about that one. I am also not aware, in a sense, I am also not very sure if that happens only at that stage, or Swamiji also ask other disciples based on that individual's state, the spiritual state, that it happens in other levels also, or only at the level 5. I am not very clear on that one. So I'm sorry, I will not be able to completely give you satisfactory answer. I have also heard what you have heard, but I don't know if that has to be happen with everybody or only for certain disciples Swamiji instruct to do that. I'm not very sure.
जय सद्गुरुदेव, मैं माया बोल रही हूँ. I would like to add something that I know not about exactly the Guha Anushthan. But is Yogesh ji, you mentioned like Swamiji's summon only, somebody would do Anushthan and he would direct whom to do what kind of Anushthan. I think Anushthan is not just limited to Guha Anushthan, and at what time, what Anushthan he would ask. Anushthan usually are not shared. This is my understanding. So during the time we were visiting last year, Jhusi Prayag Ashram, we know couple of Shishya, Swamiji's Shishya, they were going under Anushthan, some kind of Anushthan. So even Vidyarthi and Vishesh, the disciples, they are instructed to do certain kind of Anushthan, whatever their responsibility, and according to that, they will be all busy in there. They will not be accessible to us. So we were told like he is available this time and then he'll not be available until night. So there could be multiple kind of Anushthan, but and it's not openly shared what Anushthan they are going through. So just limited knowledge, and I learned last year. I just wanted to share here. Jai Sadgurudev.
Thank you, Mahaji, and thank you, Yogesh ji.
Yeah. Thank you, Yogesh ji, and thank you, Sri Rangji. Thank you, Maya ji. If we don't have any follow-up questions with this couplet, then we can move to another doha.
Jai Sadgurudev, Ravi ji. I have one curiosity. Since yesterday, and we had less time, so again, so many things, same thing came here also. So I would like to put that. So when a Vihangam yogi, again, it's mind, intellect. We are based on that. We are thinking and discussing. So if the Sar Shabda Updesh happened to one of the Vihangam yogi, so we cannot think that the yogi is Jivan Mukt, or after having the Sar Shabda Updesh, the disciple becomes Jivan Mukt. That was my curiosity. Or being Jivan Mukt, to be Jivan Mukt, they have to cross certain criteria even further. I don't know. So just I was thinking on that subject. Would love to hear more.
Yeah. That's a good question, Mayaji. So As we were talking about when that stage occurs, so based on my understanding is when a Sar Shabd Upadesh or the initiation of a Vihangam Yogi happen in the last stage by Swamiji, that is when the yogi start working on his final stage just by being initiated into the fifth level is not considered as that yogi becomes the liberated soul or Jivan Mukt. That is the stage, and nobody knows. It is again based on every individual soul's quality or the purity, that not necessary that once the fifth stage is given to that yogi by Swamiji, that yogi may achieve or the complete that stage. The Jivan Mukta title or the stage happen only when the fifth stage is completed by that yogi. It is like entering into the PhD course. So that doesn't mean that person is called as having a doctorate title. It is just he has started his final journey to become a PhD holder. But it depends on that particular student or subject, how long that student takes to complete his research and achieve that doctorate. Similarly, just by initiating somebody into the fifth stage of Vihangam Yoga does not entitle him to become a Jivan Mukta. And in when I was there in 2017, we were talking that night. We were talking with Dr. Hemanji, and he was explaining that there are so many who are in fifth stage, and just like Swamiji has mentioned, right? That stage could also take one or two lives. It depends on complete the purity of that soul, because that is the last stage where not even a tiniest or micro impurity should stay in the soul. Any small impurity would block that surati to become nirati. And unless and until that stage is achieved, the soul still have to continue his or her journey to achieve the Jivan Mukti Yogi state. So it is not just by getting initiated into it, but it is actually that is where the Param Purushartha, what Swamiji is always describing, comes into picture, where that yogi has to try hard, because that is what Swamiji mentioned, right? In our previous doha, Tara Nirantar Urdhvame Chetan Yoga Prava, means constantly his consciousness to be become one with Supreme Soul. Then only it will become Jivan Mrutak. Until then, no, it is like see what happens if I understand these stages clearly, right? So at the fifth stage, that yogi see the Supreme Soul. So just by seeing does not mean a reunion with the soul. It is like you want to go by a flight, okay, but just by looking the flight, the airplane from distance does not mean you already reach to the destination through that airplane. You will still have to get into the airplane. Airplane still has to fly, then only you will reach to the destination. Similarly, the fifth stage, you experience, you get the jhalak of Supreme Soul, right? In the light of Akshar Brahma, first you get the light of Supreme Soul. You nirakhi and then parakhi happens. First you see and then you do the parak, means then you continuously start looking at it. So, and that's why Swamiji again and again talk about that Chandra Chakorvat Tanmay Tadakar. These words are used just to mention that unless and until the consciousness of that soul is continuously flowing into the Supreme Soul, when the soul, until then it is a dhyan stage. The samadhi stage happens when soul forget itself and become one with the Supreme Soul. When the soul experience the Supreme Soul inside out from all the 10 directions, that is the stage of the Jivan Mukta. So just by initiating somebody into the 5th stage is not called that yogi become Jivan Mukt, but we can say that yogi is now eligible to become the liberated soul, but that yogi still has to go through that 5th stage, and that could take tons of years or even multiple births. That depend, as I mentioned, that completely depend on Swamiji, right? So I just remember the Sansmaran or the one example of Yoganandji, who we all know. He reached to the liberated soul stage, and people used to ask him how you are, feeling or experiencing. He says, "Oh, it is just everywhere I could experience the Shabd, or that Dhvani of Supreme Soul, or the light of Supreme Soul." And with that stage, Swamiji also talk about him in his Amritvani very often, that Swamiji often used to ask him, "So Yoganandji, what did you eat in your breakfast?" And because his consciousness is not in the world, his consciousness is always connected with Supreme Soul. It used to take a lot of time for him to remember what he ate in the morning and give the answer. So that stage achieved after the soul practice for long, uh, to in that 5th stage, when the soul actually gets soaked completely in that stage, leave behind all sort of egos in the soul. That stage is not achieved. So yeah, just by getting initiated into 5th stage is not the Jivan Mukta state.
Thank you so much, Yogesh. Jai Sadgurudev.
Just
Yes, Sadhgurudev. So I would like to just add something. I think Yogesh, you did mention in your talk that there was one disciple who was initiated into 5th level in 2007, and it took a long time, right? So I think that kind of explains that initiating into the stage doesn't mean that you have completed it. And also, when we look at our own journey, right, when we are initiated into the 1st stage, that is when we start practicing, and making sure that our mind stays focused at one point. And when we are initiated into 2nd stage, that is when our 1st stage completes. So from that perspective as well, from our own journey, I think it is uh, you know pretty evident that it takes time to complete the stage. So initiation is, you are now eligible, and you have been given a uh, you know technique to practice. And once you perfect the technique, and once you finish the whole process, that is when you actually complete it. And for 5th stage, that completion is union with Supreme Soul. So I think, yeah, that is just wanted to add. Yes, Sadhguru.
Yeah, thank you, Srirangji and Yogeshji. Just to complement this Doha, where we are saying like Jivan Mukt. So Swamiji in his Amritvani has recited this couplet many times. You may find this couplet many times. It is giving the definition of yoga. What is yoga? It is saying Param Purusa Aruatma Sandhi Nirantar Yog जड़ माया व्यापे नहीं, कबहु न होय वियोग. So even attaining the fifth stage of meditation, or the knowledge or the gyan from Sadgurudev, still we are in the ecosystem or the cosmos of the Prakriti. So the Jad and Maya is still with us. Now, Jivan Mukt is the state of Sandhi Nirantar, where your Nirti is in action, not Surti. It means like you are continuously, like the Chandrama Chakurvat and all, Yogesh ji has already explained. So with this doha, with this couplet, there are many couplets, which is the essence of those couplets are the same. Like when you become Jivan Mukt, there is no presence of any Jad, and there is no presence of any Maya with respect to your soul and Chetana. And he has given the example of the Ananya Sharan Shishya, Yogananji. We can move to next couplet here.
जीवन मुक्त गुरु आप तुम्हें, सत्य ज्ञान जग आय, धार ईश्वरी मिल रहा, जग जीवन पथ पाय. जीवन मुक्त आप्त सद्गुरुओं में ईश्वरीय ज्ञान की धारा चलती है, जिससे संसार को सत्य ज्ञान प्राप्त होता है एवं उससे जग जीवों का पथ प्रदर्शन होता है. जय सद्गुरुदेव.
Thank you, Mayaji. Yogesh ji, I would like you to take this couplet.
Sure. Thank you, Mayaji, and thank you, Raviji. So this is a very important couplet that Swamiji has explained here. This is kind of a essence to understand how this world operates in terms of the knowledge. So to dive deep into this couplet, we will try to understand one word here that is called apt. So what is apt? So apt is a stage, that is the sixth stage, which is the most pure stage, where the complete knowledge, is acquired. So basically, when so we talked about a liberated soul in our previous couplet. Now, once a yogi become one with a supreme soul, then the knowledge of supreme soul start flowing into the soul of yogi. And the yogi then, whichever subject or whichever thing that yogi want to understand, he remember that soul, the subject, and that knowledge appear in the soul. But that is about the Jivan Mukta Yogi. Now here is the difference come between a Jivan Mukta Yogi and a Jivan Mukta Guru. Now Jivan Mukta Guru is none other than the Sadguru. So what is the difference? In case of Sadguru, who is also whose Vani or whose words are also called as Aptavani, means the Vani, or that the speech which carries the ultimate truth. So in case of Sadguru, that Ishwariya Dhar, the complete knowledge, the stream of knowledge continuously flow into Sadguru's soul. And and that's why we call Sadguru as a like a synonym for Supreme Soul. There is no difference between Sadguru and Supreme Soul, because whatever is that infinite knowledge that the Supreme Soul has, appear or continuously keep flowing into the soul of Sadguru. And then Sadguru, because he is the divine messenger of Supreme Soul, Sadguru brings that knowledge of truth into this physical world. We all know that we call Vedas as the ancient scriptures as the eternal truth. Why do we call Vedas as eternal truth? Why somebody cannot, contradict Vedas, the riches in Vedas, especially the Brahma Vidya related riches? Because those riches or those mantras are written by such Brahmanist guru in their conscious, supreme conscious state, where that knowledge flow into their soul, and that knowledge is then described in the words of these mantras by those extraordinary Mahatmas or Rishis, Maharshis, all those who wrote the Brahma Vidya Ruchas in Vedas were the disciples of Nityanadi Sadguru, like Rishi Vain, Rishi Kuts, Rishi Narayan, Bhrigi Rishi, or Vishwamitra Rishi. So first that the ultimate truth appear in the soul of Sadguru, and then Sadguru then spread this knowledge in the physical world. Sadguru is basically the torch bearer for rest of the world. So we all know that the origin of the knowledge, all knowledge, any kind of knowledge, the origin is the Supreme Soul, and that knowledge flow into Sadguru, and then Sadguru bring that to the rest of the world. You can take examples of let's say Ayurveda, or even the instruments, the musical instruments that we use in our daily life, whether you call the astronomy, geological science, or all these are different sections. You see that knowledge you will find in Vedas, or Bhrigi Samhita, or many sect that they have this deep physical world knowledge that also first appears in the Rishi's soul, and then that knowledge is spread into the world. As I mentioned, the Sadguru is the one who bring that knowledge to the physical world and help this world, the material world, to continue its progress, its invention and discoveries in different areas. And there are multiple references in Swarved. You will find how Nityanadi Sadguru give the knowledge. In one place, Swamiji says, "Par Guru teen lok mein prakat gupta sansar, kahin akashvani bhane, kahin atam aur dhar." So Sadguru share this knowledge or flow this knowledge into the eligible soul through Akashvani, or by directly sharing this knowledge, or flowing this knowledge into that particular soul. At one place, Swamiji said, अमित ज्ञान की धार है, सद्गुरु उर बह आए, योगी से जग में भया, जग बुध जन सोई पाए. So Amita Jnana ki dhar, that infinite knowledge that the Supreme Soul possesses, that the stream of that infinite knowledge flow into the soul of Sadgurudev, and from Sadguru, then it appears in this world, and those intellectual people actually achieve that, acquire that knowledge based on Sadguru's blessings, and this world continues functioning. So basically, in nutshell, if we have to say that the origin of the knowledge, whether it is the spiritual knowledge or the material or physical world knowledge, that came in this world through Sadgurudev, and the origin of that knowledge is the Supreme Soul. That messenger bring that knowledge and spread it into the world, and that's why why we call Nityanadi Sadguru as Adi Acharya, or he is the one who bring that knowledge, because when the nature exists, when the Srishti first happened after Pralaya, Nityanadi Sadguru, the eternal master, is the one who appear in this world and give the knowledge in the form of Veda, in the heart of, or in the soul of those eligible Maharshis, and that's from where that knowledge then slowly gets spread into the rest of the world. So I do not have more to share on this soul, on this couplet, but I certainly feel that it is a very, very important couplet for every one of us to understand that how this knowledge appears in the world. This one doha actually shed light on that one. Jai Satgurudev.
Thank you, Yogesh ji. Yeah, beautifully explained. And if anyone of us has any questions related to this doha, bridge is open now. You may ask.
Yes, Sadgurudev, Yogesh ji, and Ravi Shankar ji. Yeah, thank you for sharing all that knowledge. And an analogy that was given in the same context which Yogesh ji was explaining is imagine that there's an ocean and then there's a cloud. So the cloud is sprinkling water on the planet. So it's very similar concept happening where the Paramatma is the ocean and Sadguru is like the cloud, which is bringing which has all the properties of the ocean. And in addition to that, it is sprinkling the knowledge and the bliss upon the planet. So that is very much consistent. And one other thing that that looks like was mentioned is that in the Vedas, the original knowledge that was given to Brahma, as also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, in the beginning of the creation, there was only one path that was actually delivered to Brahma by the by the Almighty, which is the path of bhakti. And but as the knowledge started to get spread through the rishis and scientists of those days, and then they realized that there's so much diversity because of the free will that every human being has. So then it started to really accumulate. It's like from a la carte, it started to become like a massive menu of buffet. And for every kind of human being, there's a process. So it became like a massive documentation, or passed through the Shruti and Smriti. And as a result, it even becomes more critical for the Sadguru and the Guru to demystify. So that's why it's very, very, because if somebody starts to become learned on the scripture, then they miss out on the essence. It has been the history of the knowledge passed down. So that's where the Guru disciple parampara became absolutely entrenched in our culture, and very, very crucial to have, because the Guru is the cloud who has the Satchidanand's property, all the Sarvagya Gyan, and he has all the Shakti of the Almighty. He has all the bliss of the Almighty, and that's what the Sadguru is doing, which is bringing that wealth and inheritance to the jivas. But the jivas have to be above that threshold in order to inherit all of that massive, infinite, wealth. And so just wanted to kind of share that. It just adds to what Yogeshji was talking about, which is very much consistent. And that's why we have these satsang, because, once people go into that level of depth, you will see that it really nothing is contradicting. Everything is just falling in place. And that's the beauty. And that, has to be mentioned at least. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Niranjanji. You're also bringing a lot of your analogies and your experience from the other scriptures and the holy scriptures, and presenting this and sharing this in this forum. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So here in this Doha, like I think Yogeshji has covered everything. The keywords is the Nibrant. Like Nibrant is, it's in the, I don't know whether it is Sanskrit or it is Hindi. Nibrant could be a Sanskrit word, right? It means you don't have any confusion, like any doubt. That is the Nibrant. And the another is Ishwariya Gyan. Ishwariya Gyan in Swarved, the first page of the Swarved, where Sadguru Sadafal Devji Maharaj has written, Srut Gyan is what the meaning of the Ishwariya Gyan. And earlier this Gyan was delivered by Guru to Sishya, Guru to Sishya, Guru to Sishya, and that parampara was there. But somehow, after 5,000 to 6,000 years later on, this Gyan has been, it's mystified, as you rightly said, Niranjanji. And Sadguru Dev can only demystify it, and that this is what it's happening in Vihangam Yoga.
Exactly, because the rishis were, they were very practical people. They were not just, it's a very wrong impression that sitting in somewhere in in an isolated place. They were like, look at Ved Vyas, right? Everybody. They looked at the situation. They foresaw the situation. And that's how they divided the Veda, because they knew that, this parampara of Shruti and Smriti is going to deteriorate in the Kali Yuga. Yeah. And so we have to split it and make it easier for people to. So they were always thinking about like how to bring that Ananya and Nitya Bhakti, Bhav, Prapanna. These are the terms that they're using. Imagine, this is like absolute terms. Can you imagine? Human being is, and that's why I can understand totally what, this whole 1 hour that Yogeshji was talking about. It exactly fits into that thing actually, because even though you are at the Vihangam Yoga 5th level of stage, Sadguru's grace may not fall in actually. That's exactly what the scriptures is telling. The essence is telling, because this requires 100% is the criteria. Can you imagine that? And that is why it is absolutely, it's very rare, very challenging. And maybe that is that is also the reason why, the world, this they call it karma bhumi or mrityu lok or dukh lok. That these are the two words that that is continuously used. So humanity has to come to the terms that this is dukh lok. Don't expect a sustained happiness, no matter who you are, where you are. It will not happen, because this is a prison, and the only way out from the prison is that criteria. And I was shocked to actually know that the original pass down was just about bhakti only. Can you imagine that? I mean, and then that's how, when Krishna was deliberating the Gita, eventually he said that, okay, this is where it eventually ends. Everything else happened because of the different free will. It was a buffet of many, basically. So, and that's what he told Arjun, that when you're fighting the war, you have to be nitya bhakti, ekdam man nitya hona chahiye, continual, with not a second here and there, and ananya, exclusive, kisi aur mein nahi. And by the way, one other thing was, he, Arjun folded his hand and he said Krishna not as the Almighty. He told him that you are my Guru. And that's another very important factor, because if he had seen him, even though he knew that he's the Almighty himself, or he's the Bhagwan or Avatar, but he called him as a Guru, because the Almighty, if he had called him Almighty, then Sharananagat and the actual implementation would not have happened. But since he called him Guru, and he devoted himself into the Guru, Ananya and exclusive, and you're seeing the Paramatma through the Guru, because it is literally, that is the only way the Almighty works. And that kind of Sharanagat, he knew about that, and then he called him Guru, in spite of knowing that this is the Paramatma himself. That अब आप बताओ कि मुझे कैसे करना है, and then मैं पूर्ण शरणागत करता हूँ, और जो तुम बोल रहे हो वही करूँगा. And so that is very consistent across this spiritual path. And that is the ultimate essence, actually. You can, we can say that this underlying truth is just one line. Ananya Nitya Hari Guru की भक्ति और निष्काम, बिना कुछ मांगे. हमें मोक्ष की भी मांग नहीं करनी है. That is the requirement. हमें बस उनकी दास्य भाव, क्योंकि एक्चुअल रिलेशनशिप वेदों में जो बताया गया है is about Swami, the Almighty and Sadguru. They are the Swami, and we have to have the dasya bhav. Then they talk about different bhav as it progresses more deeper and deeper into that prem, which is Sakha bhav, and Vatsal prem, absolute prem, and Madhurya, which is pleasantness. There's no differentiation at some point. The ultimate level is where there's no difference. It's like, sometimes the Almighty is sitting on the tree, sometimes the Bhakt is sitting on the tree, and the Almighty is actually folding hand in the body. These are the kind of descriptions that they talk about. So it's amazing. And the beauty that I'm finding with the Vihangam Yoga is so consistent. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderfully explained. Thanks, Niranjanji. I would like to inform everyone about an event Navy is proud to announce. It is Warrior of the Week. We all know the best time to meditate is Brahm Muhurat, between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. But most of us fail to do that. So to encourage this, Navy has started this event where participants join the WhatsApp group called Brahm Muhurat Warrior. Each participants practice Brahm Muhurat meditation on their own. There is no session to join. Once you are done with the meditation, you can send the status to the group as done. If any one of you are interested to join this group, please let us know. We can add you, or we can send you the link to join. So Warrior of the Week, this time is, as we know, Suryaram Rajuji, Tejinder Yogesh Shirsagar Bhagwati Patel Srirang Prachi Shirsagar Inductees of the week is Ranjani ji, Amit Talekar ji, Sudhanshu Kumar ji, Maya ji, Lalmani ji, and Vinita ji. Thank you so much. Now we have reached the last phase of today's workshop. This phase we will recite some short version of Shanti Path. In Shanti Path, we chant for the peace for everyone who exists in this universe. May Sadgurudev bless the entire cosmos with peace, love, and prosperity. I would now request Devji to recite the last few lines of Shanti Path for us.
Hey Prabhu Shanti Sarupa Ho, Shanti Shanti Maya Shanti, Shanti Shanti Jana Shanti Ho, Purna Shanti Maya Shanti. Hey Prabhu Shanti Pradana Kara, Duraho Sarva Shanti, Deva Sada Phala Shanti Maya, Shanti Shanti Sukha Shanti. Buriya Sadguru Bhagavan Ki Jai.
I would like to thank you all for joining us and also encourage everybody to ponder over the topic on the Swarved couplets, what we discussed today. Special thanks to Jessica ji for prayers. Special thanks to Yogesh Shishagar ji for explaining the couplets. Special thanks to Dev ji for ending prayers, and all the participants, Maya ji, Srirang ji, and Niranjan ji, for asking such a beautiful connected questions and making this workshop a success. And we hope like everybody is benefited from this satsang, and there is some increment in our knowledge, understanding through those two couplets. Navy has been conducting this Sunday virtual satsang and Vihangam Yoga initial workshops for all over US and North America over last few years. If you have any queries or any questions related to this, please send us an email at info@vihangamyoga.org. I would like to thank everybody for your valuable contributions today. See you all next Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the same Zoom meeting. Thank you all, and may Sadgurudev bless you all.